Hello everyone, I'm Kibitz and welcome back to Satisfactory. Over the last few weeks, we've been busy building tons of infrastructure so that we can build an amazing nuclear power plant. We have our location set, we have all of the items brought here, and today we are going to build our control room. So super quick, here is our diorama of what we'll eventually all be doing. This is kind of like the scaled back version, just to show off kind of what's involved, what we've already completed, and what is to be done. And there's a lot that can go wrong with a nuclear power plant, including making an abundance of nuclear waste. And that is one of the main things we have to control. In the first phase of the project here, we are going to be aiming to make a ton of uranium fuel rods. Fuel those into a reactor, and unfortunately you end up with uranium waste. The uranium waste cannot be deleted, but it can be processed further into plutonium fuel rods. But then you get plutonium waste after you burn the fuel rods. But that can be processed way later on, so not a huge dealio, except in the interim, because we need the power of the nuclear power plant to actually make the plutonium and later on fixonium fuel rods. So we need a control room in case something goes wrong and we can't actually recycle all of their uranium waste. So in our control room, we're gonna have to have a few things. We're gonna need a lot of batteries in case of accidents. We're going to need a priority power switch so we can have the nuclear power plant be the main part of the grid. So other factories in our world will shut down first if there is a power problem, keeping our nuclear plant online for waste processing. Circuit breaker, don't be nervous, everything will be fine. But if things aren't fine and our nuclear power plant is having a little bit of a meltdown or a crisis, we're also gonna have to have a variety of power switches to turn off redundant systems or unnecessary systems. For example, if we need all of our power to process all of the nuclear waste, then we'll probably want to shut down all of the hundreds of machines that are making more fuel rods and keeping on machines that we desperately need. So yeah, we will want control over all of these systems in case of those kinds of emergencies. That also implies that there will be problems, and there won't be. Everything's gonna be fine. No nuclear issues this season. No way. Because I've been planning on what to do for a long time. I got some cool ideas, all in Project Hoos. I realized that I don't want to have just like random hypertubes all over the place, so I made a blueprint for Project Hoos. So whenever I'm working on a new project, we can just have a nice little house, and we can do all of our planning in it. This will be available on Patreon, by the way, in case you want to use it yourself, but it has a bunch of boards inside, a bin for bin things, and you know, it's aesthetically pretty nice. I like it. It's all in one boot, and because it's a blueprint, we can just get rid of it when we're done with it. Anyway though, I have filled out this Project Hoos, got the power in, we have some lights, it's pretty nice. And I just made a bunch of notes for what's going on around here. Like we have a bunch of drones ready, we need to upgrade a ton of belts to be Mark 6, and we just have our space around. Anyway, one of the things we need to plan though is which kind of items we desperately need to control inside the factory. And there's quite a few, like I was saying. And since we have this place for planning, let's figure out precisely which items we want to control in our control room. Like I was saying before, uranium waste, mission critical. That is the nightmare fuel. But also plutonium waste could become an issue because we're gonna be making a lot of that as well. And it cannot be deleted. We're also gonna wanna keep an eye on all of the fuel rods. So the uranium, plutonium, and fixonium fuel rods. And then the materials we need to recycle uranium waste, like sulfuric acid and nitric acid. And one last thing we'll need to keep an eye on as well are pressure conversion cubes. As a little bit of a spoiler here, we're gonna be using pressure conversion cubes to make plutonium fuel rods later on. We'll have to keep track of that. Okay, lots to plan around. Now to build the actual control center. It is going to be right up over there, kind of in the center of the biome, right next to this little lake. But now the hard part of making a really cool design. But I have some ideas. As many of you guys know, I do love myself brutalish structures, and I was seeing some really cool designs just in real life with this kind of like wavy wood pattern. And I want to try and recreate that out of concrete. So I'm thinking we'll have this big central grill as both a window and a highlight piece. And then we'll tighten up kind of the grill design and have it flow around the main window. Hopefully that just looks good. Oh, and hold up, wait. I need something really important that can help with the design. Didn't really think I'd end up using them, but there are different foundations that are available in the Awesome Shop that will be super, super useful. I haven't bought them yet because I didn't want them kind of clogging my inventory. Or not my inventory, but my like selections in here. Like when I'm going into architecture and I look at the walkways or the catwalks, I don't want the industrial ones because I never will use these. That was the same deal with the quarter pipes. I didn't think I'd ever use them. But here we are. What is it, Ada?
Where would we be without foundations? Probably a bit lower.
And more bad news, but these did not help with the design. Or at least, I just wasn't good enough to pull it off. But this is kind of where I got. It's not bad. Like, we kind of have the idea, as mentioning earlier. But I was live streaming on Twitch, and one person was just like, it kind of looks like the front of a truck, like a semi-truck. And I just cannot unsee that. That's how designing stuff goes. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it does not. Now we know, right? Now back to the drawing board. But maybe not all is lost. Like I was going through my inspiration pictures and I have this one here, which is pretty cool. It kind of has a bit of a wavy pattern and I was thinking, well, maybe we could use the wavy pattern as an accent to the full design. Like a big block over top of like a giant window and then a foundation. Also had another picture, not these, but this is from Doom 2. It's like one of the towers I thought was pretty neat. So I tried to combine both the ideas. So we have kind of the main foundation holding up the main tower block. Then we could add in the wavy windows up there and all the details. It could be pretty cool. It's like a very, very, very basic design, but I could definitely see it working. And there's the positive that we can also make this tower as tall as we want. But there's a bit of a problem with it. A pretty fundamental problem with the entire design, which unfortunately means we have to scrap it as well. Kinda looks like something else. Yeah, this is a neural quantum processor. It's like a 1-for-1. But we're gonna be making these processors somewhere else in the world, so maybe we save the design for later, but for now, I don't think so. So frick, there's another couple hours gone. Well, gotta be honest, bit stumped here. Past Kibs, do you have any ideas? So that's right, we're back in our last playthrough world. Just before 1.0, we wrapped this place up by completing all of the space elevator parts that were available. But I used up most of the resources in this world, so that's why we started the new playthrough to start fresh. But we're back here because I actually just wanted to see what Past Kibs was up to for some design inspiration. There's this really cool like box modern design here that I liked. I absolutely loved my main base, but this is way too involved. Then I had this wonderful plastic plant. That was a good happy medium, but not involved enough. Now I mostly want to check out my old nuclear power plant. I love this place. It's a really simple design, but something about it, man. Well, mostly this front building. The rest of it, it's a little no. And I'm happy we're back to this because you know what I really like? I like that we have this angled part of it. Like we have the square design and then it angles a bit. That's pretty neat. In fact, you know what? That gives me an idea. Earlier on, we're messing with like all these grills, right? And we're trying to shape a building around them. Well, the grills kind of reminded me of something. This dates me a lot, I know, but it reminded me of the old style TVs from way back in the day. You had the main screen where you watch the TV, and then you had all the knobs and the grills and all this stuff on the side. I was like, that's kind of what I want to do right here. Like, I like the grill kind of design, and I like having a main feature window. So I thought, hey, why don't I take this, except we'll put the busy part on an angle, like we did our last nuclear power plant. And you know, I think I came up with something pretty cool. This. It's a little mix of the radiator design that we're working with earlier, and that TV idea, and the angles from our last nuclear power plant, where we have the main kind of TV front facing there, and then we have this separate grill on a different angle off to the side. And I like this a lot. I think it looks pretty cool, like a retro future design. Yeah. It can possibly work out. Here's the deal though. I don't like working with circles or angles in this game because they can be a huge nuisance, especially for like practical reasons. Because now we have a grid that is not aligned to the rest of our factory here. And these kinds of designs take a lot of work in order to blend in. What I mean is, like, we'll have a normal factory layout over here. Then to incorporate this front design, we have to like hide a turn in the platforms. And at scale, like this kind of scale, that is no easy feat. Because if we don't do that, it's gonna be almost impossible to kind of utilize much of the space. Because if we're building a belt and like a couple machines over on this end, and then we want to transition to the other grid, there's gonna be a lot of weird belt finagling every single time. So to avoid this, kind of need to blend both the designs together somehow. And usually my method to do that is to spam up a bunch of stuff around the weird angled blocks to hide the transition points. We'll have some blocks on that kind of angle, but then we'll clip them into the main foundation, kind of like this here. And oh my gosh, it is being a little difficult, but I'm figuring it out. We're gonna have like a big block kind of holding up the front design here, and that way we can hide together the two different alignments. Then I brought the floor down a little bit, at least for this front box, so then we can have the main floor kind of going out like this. And then we can actually utilize the space up front. That's get a little weird when we get to this wall though, because we can't just build right there or else we are going to clip through and ruin the front aesthetic. But I can work around it. And ultimately, super worth it, because this place is looking awesome. All the walls filled in, they're all transitioned now, and I even got a nuclear power plant right up there to add in some steam once everything's online. Very happy with how everything blended together. Took a very long time, but it worked. And inside here, we don't have to worry about all the silly angles anymore. Got a big old brick kind of dividing the front face with the functional side. It'll work out great. Yeah, getting that nuclear power plant running, that's a whole thing, but a whole thing for future Kibs. But also, we can bring some pipes through the front as well. Like I left this space open so we can have some water or sulfuric acid or nitric acid or what have you going through here, making the front a little bit more colorful and interesting. We have our main window for looking over the power plant. And now we can focus up on the control systems inside. And inside, it's gonna be very claustrophobic. I very much so like to lean towards the big grandiose designs, but I wanna switch it up this time around and make everything very compact, hyper detailed, and super crazy. So in that regard, I have decided to make a bunch of hallways for the factory. These hallway blueprints are super handy. Essentially, not only can we add them in everywhere, busy things up, but they have a lot of functionality as well. The platforms are all gonna be raised up above the floor, so we can do all the belt work down here. I've left walls down at the ground level, or floor level, so we can do all of the belt work and hide it behind walls wherever we need to. And then there's even a little bit of room to add in conveyor floor holes. So if a belt needs to go up, well, there's room to do that, and it doesn't get in the way of the main pathway. So lots and lots of options here. Plus, I was able to force in these inverted quarter pipes, so unlocking them wasn't a total waste of time earlier. Yippee! So I've made a whole set of these. Like usual, they're gonna be all available on Patreon. And with this set, we can have whole hallways going all over the place. So in fact, let's just make, I don't know, a new section somewhere. Call it hallways. We'll add all the blueprints I made to that. And because they're all in their nice little subcategory here, when we're building, we can just build the center part. Then, if we hold E, we can just select the other blueprints in that category. So we can have like a hallway going straight off this way. It doesn't really work in blueprint mode. I don't know why this happened, but there's a bit of a gap. So if I press H and the arrow keys, I kind of clip them together and it works out fine. But now with these blueprints, making all these hallways will be super easy. There's like the hallways, the turn, the center points, crosses, the straight up corners, and every part necessary in order to make like a crazy maze of hallways and belts. And all of them can be replaced and deleted whenever necessary because they're all blueprints. And we have blueprint dismantle mode. Cool, eh? Super cool. So now we can start to use them in the design of our control rooms and stuff like that. And what I'm thinking is we'll have a main hallway cross, relatively centered, maybe like here. This hallway can go towards the viewing room. Then we can have a corridor heading towards the edge of the build. That can be like a doorway outside, so we can actually get in and out of the place. Then another hallway going over to the other side to do something else. Because with our control building here, I was thinking we'd have like a main control room, but instead, kind of go with the more busy aesthetic. We're gonna have multiple control rooms. So we could have a control room over here for all of the pipes, and then in the center, we'd have a control room for all the power switches. We can hide all that behind a big old Gatorynski. So we'd go through the main gate, and we'd have all of our controls. If we could even control the door, okay, there we go. Then we could run off to the side and have a more detailed room for maybe, I don't know, uranium or whatever. And then yeah, the highlight room. Oh yeah, the main items in the center can be the ones from Project Hoos. The stuff on the wall here, like the uranium waste, the nuclear fuel rods, the pressure conversion cubes, all that stuff. Oh, that's perfect. So then how many items do we need to see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Terrible number to work with, but something to work with, right? I think I got a pretty good idea. So we'll have the doorway in here, and then up here, this will be kind of our spice rack. We'll see all of those mission critical items. So the wastes and the fuel rods and what have you. That's cool. And then off to the left, like I was saying, we'd have a more detailed room for the uranium, so we can check on each source, like, hey, this is supposed to be 600 items per minute. This is supposed to be 300 items per minute, etc., etc. Once we have the drones all organized, we'll fill in the numbers here. And then yeah, we could see exactly where we're having problems. All the items just go back over that way and back to the actual processing facilities. Off to the right, we could do the same thing, like I was mentioning. We could have all of the pipes over here and then control them from that point. You know, I'm doing it again. It's just like the beginning of the video. I kind of like this, like conceptually, but I don't think this is it. Don't do this to yourself, kid, please. Went through so many designs already with the front of this area. But this build is so important. I want it to be perfect. And this, it's cool, but it's just not it. It's kind of like earlier in the playthrough where I was building a hypertube cannon hub in our main base. I had like a serviceable design. It worked, but man, when I spent like a lot more time, we ended up making it look so much better. And I feel like that exact process is happening here. So let's cut it short, just redo it. So back we are at the beginning, but I have a really good idea off the bat here. I won't take you through the whole process like I did with the, the rest of the building. This time, we're gonna make it kind of like a prison complex design. And this is an image I'm kind of referencing. It's from Guardians of the Galaxy 1, wherein it's a prison with all of these cells all around and a central control tower to overview and control everything around it. So it's a whole big like hexagonal complex, and I thought, hey, that'd be pretty neat. So we're gonna kind of build this exact thing inside Satisfactory, inside the building here. Yeah, bit of a tall order, but if it works, it will be amazing. We just have to build a hexagon. Fortunately, there's a wonderful tutorial on how to build perfect hexagons just online. I'll link it in the description, but essentially, you build a foundation, then you build a road barrier right on the corner. And when you're right on the corner, you tilt it just a little bit, and then you zoop it out one. Then you directly look at that road barrier with another foundation, click, and that makes a perfect corner right there. So then you go to the next foundation, you put your road barrier there, tilt it a little bit, zoop, click with the foundation, click again, and eventually you end up with a hexagon shape. So you can kind of already see, maybe if I actually painted this, it's better. We got a pretty good shape going. Take some work here, this is new to me, so let me practice, but Yeah, we can make a hexagon and that central tower, and somehow combine it with this door and stuff. But after a little bit of practice, figured it out, and I have built the hexagon room. It's a little crazy down here, but the main control room, it's turning out to be one of the coolest things I have ever made. One of the things I realized is that in the first couple designs, I was building without any height variation, so I couldn't really add too much depth. So instead, our control room is gonna be up a floor, so we can have kind of some vertical depth, and that helped significantly. This control room now, it's turning out awesome. We're gonna have all of the belts and the pipes all on the sides on vertical belts and pipes, so we can see everything that's going on at a glance. And then we have our control room here. So we have some cool lights up above. There's gonna be some actual lights hidden there that'll shine down on the centerpiece. We'll have all of our main control switches. So way earlier in the video, I was suggesting that we have some control switches for like the uranium processing, Hexonium, plutonium, whatever. And then of course, an emergency power switch in case of whoopsies, but that won't happen. No, the main thing is the design. We have the hexagon shape, and I have the foundation stairs with an asphalt finish to kind of give a little bit of depth down here. And we have a main control platform in the center. And what I'm thinking for the walls of this room, we're gonna have screens. So we have all these windows, and then behind the windows, we can have a bunch of information. So I could show how much uranium is being brought in on one screen, and then another screen, how many control rods we're making, and all that kind of fun stuff. At least that's my initial idea, because we're not gonna be able to look outside. This room, I want it to be pretty secure. It's like the control room for the whole power plant. And B, I built it kind of in the center here, so we can't really look outside too well. So I'm gonna box it all in and see how the screens end up looking. And oh my gosh, earlier when I said that this might be one of the best things I've ever created, I was absolutely 100% correct. After tinkering with the designs and adding in all of the backfill and the lights, bro, you are just not ready for this. Here it is, baby. The control room. Functional, lights up above. We have all the signs kind of started, and we can add on more signs as the project continues. We have the uranium controls, plutonium, the main power plant statistics and all that, Hexonium, and a switch we'll never ever have to use. Lights everywhere. All of the items now have their own specific spot. We have all the sulfuric acid in here, nitric acid, all of the uranium belts, and then all of the other belts for wastes and fuel rods on the right. So when we enter our power plant, we're gonna be able to come to this room, look around, see exactly what's happening, and check the board over here to make sure everything's running properly. And after spending days obsessing over it, I couldn't be happier with the result. However, though, that is gonna be all for now. But I hope you enjoyed, and remember to subscribe for more, because next time we have a few other auxiliary control rooms to build. And hopefully they'll be just as cool. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.